Welcome, everyone who decided to join. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful concert of birds I have here all around. Today's the full moon in Scorpio. It's May 5th, 2023. And got my cards here. And I'm going to tune into the energy of the collective of the current moment and ask the cards for guidance and use them as a tool to connect with the collective, with the higher consciousness, and ask and reflect upon what is important to know for the moment. I want to thank everybody who's here to listen. Thank everybody who's willing to open themselves up to receive inspiration, to receive clarity, to connect with their inner knowing, to receive confirmations for what you may already be very well aware of. Let's remember that we all have the tools, the knowledge, and the potential to connect with our intuition, with our inner knowing, with our conscious and subconscious realms. And the tarot cards can help us confirm that. So always take with you what resonates and listen to your own inner knowing, your own teachings. Listen to your own words, the words that you may be speaking even to others as guidance, may be very potent guidance for yourself. Just shuffling the cards here. And I ask everyone to just take a moment to tune into yourself, tune into the collective voice of life, tuning into the energy of the luminaries, the planetary bodies, the asteroids, the earth, the elements, the frequencies of love, compassion. The first card I'm going to pull will show us what is important right now, what is the highlight of this full moon, what is the current energy, what is the big theme for right now, for this full moon phase. And I would also like to pull a card for the topic of reconciliation and asking what will help us find that extra bit of ease in those areas where we are still longing for reconciliation, and in that area in which we are still working on overcoming the challenges or the barriers we feel. So what will support that reconciliation and that healing in this phase? And I also want to pull a card for the topic of shining our gifts and sharing our wisdom and our inspiration. So what will support us in sharing the insights that we already have found and grounding that new knowledge into the earth, into our physical bodies, into each other's awareness. So what will help us tune into sharing our gifts and spreading our insights. The topic of this moment is the Hierophant. This is what the Hierophant looks like, upright, but it came down upside down. This is really a moment about tuning into the orders and the structures that have been built, and it's a time where we are reflecting upon, are they needed? Are they still needed? What are they teaching us? What are they giving us? What are they offering us? And I feel very strongly we are going through this phase where everything seems to be falling apart, breaking down. We want things to fall apart. It's like we have been stuck in so many rigid structures that we want this full anarchy moment of breaking free, and we finally rediscover these long lost parts in ourselves where we want to be able to live by that. We want to be able to live in our full unique blueprint. We want to be able to live in our full expression. We want to be able to not hold back anything. Yet the past weeks have been really showing us the confrontation that comes with that full freedom of expression. It's showing us where our boundaries meet the boundaries of another person, where our freedom of expression meets the freedom of expression of another person, and where we are feeling that friction, that tension that may arise. And I really feel with this card that right now we're going through a collective questioning and asking of how actually do we want to live? We are trying to tear down the structures, but what will be there instead? And to have that kind of shift in perspective of when we have gone through a phase of focusing on what needs to come down, we are now shifting on focusing on what needs to be built up and which structures actually can emerge. And is structure in itself a good thing or a bad thing? If we look around nature, even though things seem very radical, very spontaneous and very cyclical, there is a lot of structure found in nature, from the way that the molecules are structured, putting themselves together to create material, to create matter, and to create that foundation of stability. From the way that the cycles are with patterns are also creating structures. And we may need to sacrifice a part of our belief system if we really want to grasp onto new structures being built. It's like we're in this phase where we have one foot in the new and one foot in the old, and we're really afraid to take that foot out of the old because we don't know yet if the new works. And I feel that it's important at this time to remember that we are in a phase of experimentation. We are in a phase of trial and error, of testing out. It's not about finding the one structure that is the ultimate structure, the ultimate way of doing things, but it's about testing out different ways of doing things, and then having enough feedback loops, having enough questioning about those, and noticing and writing down and creating a source of information understanding the consequences that these new structures bring, and being able to quickly enough shift around, being able to be fluid and flexible enough to take those things as starting points and from there on evolve. So to not be too rigid with our structures. Right now it's about finding structures that work for the now, and that may or may not be the ultimate solution. But instead of keeping ourselves limited because we don't see the solution for the big long term, we don't see the solution that is the perfect puzzle piece to bring everything together and will last the next 20 years. Without finding that solution, we may be keeping ourselves stuck in a kind of a frozen moment where we don't dare ourselves yet to walk forwards because we are afraid of not having the best solution yet. When at this time, it may not be necessary to have the best solution. It may be necessary to have a solution for today, to have a solution for now, to have a solution for this week. And upon using the midterm time scheme to build a bridge between living in the current present moment and being in the ever conscious experience, and also utilizing the gift and the ability we have been given to think long term, to see into the future, to imagine a future, and to live by the reality of time that we experience, not running away from it, but seeing it as a tool that gifts us opportunity. And bringing in the wisdom of the structures of our body, so to understand also our body, to learn from ancient structures, and to maybe use them as a bridge without getting too fixated on what has been, but to also value the original intention these structures had, and getting back to the original intention of why was this started? Why was it done this way in the beginning? What was the cause? What was the original thing to induce that desire, to induce that structure? Noticing where it may have gone wrong or where it does not align anymore with what is needed in the present. But to still keep that intention and that moment of initiation, to learn from that and to bring some of that intention back and infuse it into our present and our future thinking. And we are in a time where we are really asked, and we have the opportunity and the blessing to be able to really understand life in a very, very physical way, where our senses are opening. We feel more, we hear more, we may even smell more. And to be joyful about that physical sensation, to be joyful about that body, and to remember the structures that our body has been built by, understanding how your cycles work, how your hormones are functioning, how your chemistry is being triggered. By understanding that, we can not only help our bodies feel good, we can not only help our anxiety feel a lot more soothed by understanding exactly what is the chain reaction and what are the structures and systems that our body follows. And at the same time, by understanding all of that, we open up our mind to look at the world in a new way. We open up our ability to understand and imagine, and now all of a sudden we don't only understand our body in this way, but we may understand the body of a society in this way. We may understand the body of natural cycles of a planet in this way, and it will help us open up our knowing. It will help us use the realizations we find in one area of life and be able to apply it in an adjusted way to another area. It will open up our creativity and help us find more solutions. The Hierophant is also connected with the sound he, and the pictorial symbol that goes with that sound he, which is the breath. So it's really about breathing in and out, and understanding also why we need to breathe both in and both out. The deeper we find that awareness, and the more we understand that we cannot just breathe out and out and out and out, and we also cannot breathe in and in and in and in and in, but we need to breathe out and in and out and in. Having compassion for ourselves, having compassion for our body, that it cannot do only the one way, but it needs to do one the other in a complementary cycle of yin, of yang. And so we may find more compassion for all of the ways in which the same structure shows up in life, and in the way we are doing things, and the way you might be creating something new, and you may want to breathe out all the time with this new creation, but there may be a moment of sucking it inwards again, and having more awareness for working with the structure. So we don't need to work against it, but we can actually work with it. The card for finding reconciliation, the 10 of Pentacles. It's a beautiful card. The 10 is about endings, about completion. Not only completion, but completion and new beginning. It's the 0 and the 1, the energy of the Fool, of that underlying innocent expression that is always there on the whole journey through life. And the energy of the 1 that represents the mage or the magician, that understanding of the elements and how to work with them. And those two together now in the next level of initiation, in the higher level of their understanding, or the deeper layer, or the even lower basement of your inner work. And so this card is about fulfillment on a physical level. It's about the fulfillment that comes with time, that comes through time. It's about bringing awareness to all of the parts that have contributed. So I feel very strongly with this card right now, it's about diversification, and especially with the topic of reconciliation. When we still have things that are left, when we still have anger that may be left, when we still have some desires that are left, and we want to feel abundant, we want to feel healed, we want to feel like there is fairness and justice. And if we cannot find that, it may be time to diversify where we are looking, to diversify what we are looking at, and to diversify the ways in which we are looking at things. So we may put the blame on one aspect of ourselves. If we have done something wrong, we may put the blame on one person. We may put the blame on one country, on one planet, on one species. It doesn't matter. We put the blame on one thing. And we wait for a long time for that one thing to give us a feeling of satisfaction and ease, when in fact we should be looking to the many things that are involved. It is never just one thing. And these many things that are involved, we may notice and begin to see that in many of those things there has been change already, that in many of those things there has been more justice than there was back then, whenever was the moment that you felt this feeling emerging. And it may help shift the perspective of feeling from being stuck on one thing that does not seem to change and still does not provide enough satisfaction. And it may shift a little bit of yourself into gratitude, into hope, into fairness, into feeling better. And from that feeling, you may feel more ease in your body, and from that ease in your body you can continue to do the further work and continue to spread the word. At the same time, this card also points us to working together with others and seeing that nothing on earth is ever only done by one thing alone. It is a great orchestra of interplay, of exchange, of collaboration, of help, of time passing, of harvesting the fruits of another person's labor, of another natural aspect's beauty, and in return giving something back. So this card is really inviting us to focus in on the abundance of physical changes that have already happened, of allowing yourself to see all of the aspects, to include the animal realm, to include the plant realm, the mineral realm, to include all generations, and allow yourself to look everywhere and see a bigger picture. And also here understanding how things work together, how structures are created, how things are multiplied, how is success multiplied, how is fairness multiplied, how is justice multiplied and spread, how is equality made abundant. And once we have that abundance, what will we use it for? What will it be good for? To also focus in on that aspect and reminding ourselves that when we are trying to envision the future, we want to spend time both looking at the present and looking at the future we desire. Looking at the present and the future we desire, and finding that bridge to get there. This card is showing us the wise elderly self that we all have, which is the part of self that has already understood something, that has already lived through an experience, and that now has the wisdom and can tell the tale of how that experience was, and may even have advice. And to look at the world from the inside out, from our inner wise part looking outwards. And to spread that wisdom. But to spread that wisdom not from a place of wanting to continue to control, but of sharing the wisdom and allowing those new aspects of ourselves to emerge and to then carry out that work and to adapt it in the little tiny ways that it may be needed, because they also carry a wisdom. They carry a different wisdom. They carry a new wisdom, a fresh perspective. And so to allow all of your inner aspects to be speaking without fear of being overruled or overpowered, but understanding that these aspects flow together, the fool and the magician, they flow together. That reconciliation comes through sharing. There are some old wise parts in yourself that maybe have been sharing for a long time and that need also time to rest. And there may be some newer aspects of you that are now doing the sharing. There may be some animalistic aspects of you that have been barking loudly for a long time that now want to be soothed, that are now balanced. And to understand also the natural cycle of things, understanding your own natural cycle, understanding the phases of the moon. It's a great way to begin working with the natural cycles. This can be followed by the actual moon phase, but there are many cycles within cycles for each individual, and finding your own phases, your own cycles, can be a very beautiful creative experience to understanding your own rhythm, understanding your rhythm of a day, how your feelings change throughout the day, how your feelings change throughout the month, throughout the seasons, throughout your hormonal changes, throughout your levels of hunger, throughout your levels of fresh air and oxygen intake. Understanding the factors that contribute to an experience, creating your emotional awareness. And finding all the parts that contribute. Shifting the focus from focusing too much on one single thing and bringing back in all the other aspects that contribute. So that not one thing carries all the responsibility alone, which may also be unfair because it may also be not true. There is nothing that is ever done all alone. We are in a huge realm of many, many, many things existing at the same time, co-creating, interchanging, influencing, and everything is responsible. And being able to see all of the beautiful ways in which that reconciliation that we are seeking and longing after is already being lived, is already being established, and working on strengthening those foundations to help us build the structures, remembering that these structures do not need to be the structures lasting the next 20, 30, 40 years, but that these structures are bridges in between the old ways and the new ways. So to not be too rigid with ourselves. How do we share our gifts? How do we share our insights with the world? The Seven of Swords. This is an interesting card. Seven often represents the energy of higher awareness of action, and through that action rising to a new level of awareness, or traveling to a new dimension of experience, or being raised up in consciousness. The swords representing the mental states. So We need to be very confident about ourselves if we really want to share, if we really want to bring forth that insight. We need to believe it, we need to feel it, but we also need to have the courage to do something that may need a little bit of effort. We need to be proud. We need to be proud, and we need to be connected to the intention. For when you have a clear intention and you are confident about that intention, it not only becomes easier for you to share what you have to share, but it becomes a necessity for you to share. For you to share that because you may be exactly the reason to have had an experience, to be able to share that, to be able to connect with that inner knowing and that self-confidence, that pride, to be proud of who you are and to share that pride with the world. It may be time to travel on with your thoughts. So to collecting all of the thoughts that you still need and leaving behind the thoughts that are no longer contributing. And you may not need to leave them behind forever. You may not need to erase those thoughts out of your being, but to understand that this thought in the current moment, if it is keeping you from sharing your gift, from sharing your insight and what you have learned already with yourself and with the world, sharing that, then that thought needs to be left behind in the moment. It can be picked up later, maybe it does not need to be picked up again, but to understand which are the thoughts to leave behind and which are the thoughts to bring forth. I feel that in this time, it is important, when we are really ready to share our gifts, to find a balance between sharing it with the right people and with enough people to be heard, to find support, and at the same time working in a phase of working behind the scenes. It's a feeling of working behind the scenes and letting things work behind the scenes. Letting your intentions and your gifts flow primarily into that space in which they are needed right now. And letting that space of the now become a bridge for where they are needed in the bigger picture. For if you feel overwhelmed with what it is you want to be bringing into the world and what all of the insights of the past weeks and months, year, and all of that intense labor, that inner work, that inner knowing have brought you, and it may feel overwhelming. It may feel exciting and overwhelming at the same time. It may feel like you see so many possibilities that you are overwhelmed by choice. You may see so many things to do that you may be overwhelmed with not knowing where to start, or you may simply see so much beauty that you may feel overwhelmed because it is unknown to you. So to remind yourself that while working on sharing that bigger vision, it is important to also share in the smaller moments, to incorporate those sharings and those gifts and those abilities into your everyday world, and moving them from one place to the other, bringing them with you wherever you go. This card is especially saying right now to bring those insights with you wherever you go. We like to shapeshift sometimes, we like to be chameleons, and it has been a great adaptive skill that we have acquired, allowing us to survive for many, many years as a species, as a natural element of the great orchestra of life. Finding that balance between adapting and bringing yourself into that space. And with that you are bringing in your thoughts, your minds, your insights, your intelligence, your awareness, your solutions, your ideas. Also being in a continuous effort of refinement. Going through them again, checking what is still necessary, checking what is necessary right now and what may be necessary later again, but not in this exact moment. That does not mean it is not bad, that does not mean it is not good or not wanted, but maybe it isn't necessary in this situation. Remembering that context matters and being able to notice the context that you are in, and being able therefore to decide which parts of your thoughts, of your insights, of your gifts are for this moment, in this context. In which way do you want to be sharing them? You can be sharing the same gift in a million different ways, and you can be sharing a million different gifts in the same way. Tuning into that heart frequency and finding out which of those thoughts connected to your insights, your sharings, your uniqueness, your potential of what you bring into a space, into life, into a moment, and refining that through the heart of compassion. And with that, having compassion for yourself. If you are in a space and you adapt yourself a little bit, to be compassionate to yourselves that you are adapting. You are not being inauthentic, but you may be understanding context. You may be understanding a bigger picture. You may be understanding another version of yourself even. Having compassion and having awareness for that. Being able to communicate to your subconscious through all of your 5 senses to discern in which moment is what needed, and to be able to gather that and take that and then bring it forth with you into the moment, into that present moment, into that space. Understanding not only your gifts and your insights, but understanding how different they can look, and understanding the components that they are made up of. If you have a very strong foundational belief, discern all of the little thoughts that form to create that belief. If you take one thought away or 2 thoughts away and you're left with all of these thoughts, and these thoughts aren't here anymore, does the belief stay the same? Or is it altered with added or subtracted information? Is your belief the same in any given context? Allow yourself to be fluid with your authenticity while being able to filter yourself through your heart space. Being able to act in alignment with your thinking and your feeling motors. Creating a structure for yourself that allows you to discern best, and utilizing that and letting your intention flow through that. allowing yourself to be confident in that ability. You have the Hierophant as the card of the moment, talking about structures, our inner structures, new structures, being able to build structures that are short-term, that are mid-term, leading us to the long-term, allowing ourselves to test, to experiment, to see what works and what doesn't. We have the ability to find the details of situations and to focus on all of the contributing aspects, helping us find reconciliation in matters where we may still hold on to pain, hold on to suffering, and being able to shift our perspective to something that may help us soothe that feeling. And allowing that wisdom to be carried on to a new way of doing, a new way of being, a new way of sensing and feeling. And being able to discern with our heart space which thoughts are needed in which context, in which moment, allowing ourselves to be adaptive within our authenticity, having compassion for yourself, and I feel really that the bigger theme going on right now is that of experimentation, is that of allowing ourselves to simply try out something new and allowing ourselves to honestly consider if that new thing, after trying it, has been helpful or not, seeing the different ways, seeing the contradictories even that may appear, being able to alter and allowing ourselves to discard that new way of doing, for it has not been the solution. Allowing ourselves to proclaim it as the solution if it has been helping, and remembering that we do not need to have the best and the one and the only long-term truth right now, but we are really in a phase of experimentation where we are allowed to simply try out something new. I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful full moon, a beautiful, beautiful day, weekend, week, month, year. I hope that you find yourself inspired by yourself. I hope that you can feel whatever comes up for you and remember that that is you speaking important messages to yourself. And I hope that you find the courage to share your beauty with the world, to share your beauty with me, with yourself, and to remember that we are a lot of people, beings, elements, a lot of different components of existence working together. So we may turn to ask each other for help, for support, for guidance. We may turn to each other to offer support and guidance and wisdom. We may turn to each other for silence or conversation, for closeness or for distance, and finding compassion for each other's existence and ways of being. I send you all lots of love, lots of light, lots of peace, and I'll hopefully see you next time.